Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Louise. And today we're going to be talking about authoring books, publishing books, how to get published, different options, and I'm sure we'll talk about astrology along the way as well. So and I have with me today Desiree Antila. And we met on Instagram. Desiree messaged me and asked me if I would be willing to endorse her new book that's coming out in a few months. And I said yes. I get so many messages since writing 3 books. I get lots of requests to endorse, and I just don't have time to read them all. But something about Desiree's message made me go, oh yes, I think I like the sound of this one. So I said, yeah, if you endorse my latest one, I'll endorse yours. So my endorsement's going to be on the front cover of Desiree's book when it finally comes out, because I really enjoyed it. And it's not a kind of a book I would normally go and read, because it's more of a beginner book and kind of, move beyond those things these days a little bit, but they're very much needed, I think. So we're going to talk about Desiree's book, how she came to write it, how she got published, and well, we're just going to have tea together as well. So yeah. Cheers to the tea. Okay, so welcome Desiree. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Such an honor. I'm so excited to talk about this. This will be a really fun conversation. Lots to talk about.
There is. Yeah.
And I'm so excited to have you on the cover of my book. And I will be very honest, even though I was quite biased towards your review, I was so overwhelmed by the nice reviews that I got. So I left it up to my publisher. I promised you. And they were like, you know what, Louise, this is the best. This is the one we need to use. And I said, yay.
Yay. Well, so, I'm very glad they did. Yeah. It's my name notice.
We'll always have that connection. You'll always be, on the cover of my baby. It really is my baby. Do you get attached to your books like that?
Yes, very attached. Oh, yes. And I have to warn you, when the reviews start coming in, just laugh at the bad ones, because you will get the bad ones. The first time I got a bad review, I was heartbroken, and my publishers were just like...
Oh, of course you were.
My publishers were just like, everybody gets bad reviews. Just laugh it off. And no review is a bad review. It still gets your book better, higher in the algorithms. And I was like, okay, I'll take that.
Well, I'll have to message you when the first bad one comes in, and you'll have to just remind me of that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, because I'm like 4 years in now since the first one. Can't believe I've written 3 in that time. But anyway, so let's get to know Desiree a little bit first before we do it. So Desiree is, we've talked a little bit online, and we chatted a little bit before we recorded this. Desiree is mainly a self-taught astrologer, which I was until I decided to be a professional astrologer, and then my own courage made me decide that I needed to have a teacher before I could charge for readings, but really it didn't teach me anything I hadn't learned already. So I'm not saying education in astrology is a bad thing, and we've talked a bit beforehand. You are taking a workshop with one of the most amazing astrologers in the world, so a lot of my learning since has been with individual workshops rather than just taking an astrology course. So you are initially self-taught, but I think you're still learning, right? So
I think as an astrologer, you're always learning, and there's always, the community is incredible, and there are so many phenomenal astrologers out there that have written books or write books, that teach. And so we were kind of talking about this. I really, and I go through ebbs and flows with when I want to learn and when I want to, write more and things like that. But in my 9th house perfection year, I really dove in really heavy again, and I feel like I go through phases, but you know, and we were just talking about this, but I just recently started getting really fascinated about Hellenistic astrology. There are just so many different avenues in astrology, like tarot, connecting tarot to astrology, connecting numerology to astrology. There are astrologers that specifically do readings about location, as far as like moving, like where you should move. And I mean, there's just all of these. I feel like you could learn something new every day in so many, in the various avenues of astrology.
I always say I learn something new every day, you know. Like this morning, somebody messaged me and just asked me a question about something I've talked about, but she called it a different name and I'd never heard it called that before. I was like, oh, that's a new name for that. So you know, there's just it's like one giant rabbit hole, but all of the astrology works. And it's kind of funny, Desiree and I, you know, we both use different house systems and things, but we both agree that all the approaches have validity and they all work in their own way. So, but let's talk about your history of getting into it. I know you've got that book ready, your first book, and maybe I'll talk a little bit about my first book as well, if I can remember the name of it, while you tell everybody about your first book.
Yeah, so I have been fascinated, or you know, interested in astrology from a young age, say around like 11 or 12, and just I really have been learning through reading, you know, just reading books. And I think my the very first thing that, or maybe still the main thing that I'm most interested in and with astrology, and this is my niche, is relationships and synastry, and how people and you know, and that have different signs, and also to the variations between their charts, how they connect with each other. You know, because I find it incredibly fascinating how people end up attracted to certain energy or certain signs. And so, yeah, so that was kind of the avenue that I have always been most interested in. And then everything has kind of fallen or followed, you know, after that. But I would have to say though, that just, you know, just the general compatibility between signs is always what has fascinated me. So I started writing about it about a decade ago. You know, my friends all knew that I was into astrology, so they would always ask me, what am I like with this person? Or I just started dating, you know, this sign. What do you think? How do you think that's going to work out? Or what should I be, you know, looking for? And obviously, you know, the first thing we always find out is the sun sign, because it's the easiest thing to find out. And so that's kind of usually all we have to go off of. And then we can obviously dig in deeper as you get a birth time and a date. But I think that it's, you know, it can give us some pretty good general idea, you know, just the sun signs. And I'm saying general. It's like reading, it's like looking at the cover of a book and guessing how the book will be, right? You know whether you're going to like a book usually by reading the cover, but sometimes you can be surprised. And that's why another thing I always tell people when they first start dating someone is, you know, don't just go by the sun sign, and you also shouldn't pull a chart until you get to know someone a little bit better anyway.
Oh, I so agree.
Because you can make some general accusations that are not correct. So.
Oh, I so agree. You know, I didn't pull my husband's chart for a long time because his mother can't even remember the time he was born anyway. So I was like, well, it's not going to be completely accurate. So, and I think I've figured it out now. We've been married 25 years, about what time he was born. I've kind of rectified it, but I've never, I didn't. What I dislike is these kind of sun sign groups and things on Facebook where people will just dismiss all of a sign because you know, somebody's told them that their sign doesn't match with a sun sign, and that's one thing I did really enjoy about your book, and I put in the endorsement, that you encourage people to look deeper. So your first book was Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. Just hold it up and show everybody how used it is. I have that copy somewhere too.
Yes,
Different
so
cover.
This is my, I'm sure it probably has a few. So I mean,
that one looks more like mine. The other one.
The other one. So this is her sun signs. Like the back cover is actually falling off because I've used it so much. But this is her, I think maybe this is even her first book. And it is so fragile. I sometimes don't even use this because I'm scared it's gonna fall apart. But I have so many notes and highlighted things in here. So this is her sun signs book. This just to be transparent, does have gender in here. It does have, so there's in this book was written back, I believe, in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. But the information in there is still pretty wonderful. She was just an absolutely amazing astrologer.
It's an amazing book, and it is a little bit dated, yes, in terms of being very gender defined and very much talking about so-called traditional partners, but and it definitely did need an update, but that's not to take away from the information in it whatsoever. Desiree and I have a similar kind of approach to that. My second book particularly was really focused on removing some of these gender definitions in astrology, and I really wanted to do that book because I've had many astrologers kind of look at my chart and go, "Oh, you've got a very masculine chart," and I identify as female, and I'm like, I don't want to be told I'm like a man, particularly if I'm not a man,
Right.
So I think we as astrologers, as professional astrologers, have to be careful how we talk to people about that. So it's not just men and women. There's non-binary. There's all the people in between. How LGBTQ. We can use language that's more inclusive, and your book kind of doesn't use those binary terms.
Right.
Right. Go on.
Which is what we're moving towards. And to be quite frank, I mean, when you're reading energy anyways, it doesn't matter. You're not reading tangible. You're reading almost like you're reading energy or an aura, which is not gendered. So
as a soul, if you like, you can't look at a chart and decide and know what gender it is. It could be an event. It could be it could be a dog's birth or a cat's birth or or whatever. So
exactly.
So a lot of the older textbooks just came from their time, and the language definitely needs updating. But I have to tell you, I was really just totally taken in by Desiree's book when I read my sun sign with my moon sign with my husband's moon sign. I was like, I laughed out loud because it was the best description of an Aries moon with a Gemini moon I've ever read. Yeah.
My husband also has an Aries moon, so you and I could probably just talk about that for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you know, you know, right?
Yeah. I mean, like every sign, there's always challenges,
positives.
but then there's always these wonderful positives. I mean, we got married, we got engaged really, really fast. That's very Aries moon.
We bought a house together very fast. We moved in together, then bought a house really fast. Yeah, it was all. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When an Aries moon knows what they want, they know what they want.
Oh, they certainly do. And no, clearly it's worked. I've been married 25 years now, so it works. But it just made me howl. I was like, oh, if only I'd read that as kind of a bit of a warning in the about some of the less the less pleasant side of it.
Yeah. What the one that makes me laugh actually, and I even wrote it, is my husband and I's rising sign. So you can really use my book to look at all of the synastry between you and your partner. But yeah, the rising sign one for me, even after I wrote it and I read it, and I was like, this is funny because it's true.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was true for our rising signs, or at least for what I think is his rising sign. She can't even remember what time of day he was born. I'm like, really?
That's so funny. I would never forget that.
I find that so strange. And in the UK, their birth times are not written on the birth certificate. So, we broke up a little bit there. Then, so yeah, in the UK, it's memory we go by. So, I had to. I've had my own chart rectified. I'm not an expert on rectification, but I thought I was 2 degrees Capricorn rising for a lot of my life, and I'm 28 degrees Sagittarius rising. So
interesting, and that is a niche as well. And there are people that can do that, which is so fascinating. I don't know really much about it. I just know that it exists, and I think that is really, really neat.
It really is, and I'm not an expert on it, but I have to tell you, I had tried to rectify my own myself, and she agreed, and this expert agreed. She said, you got it right. I was like, so there you go. But I wouldn't advertise myself as an astrologer that rectifies charts. I would refer out, because I think we all have our strengths. Now, Desiree's business is called Simply Sun Signs, and she does talk about in her book how, the sun sign is our core self, and you can tell just so much just from knowing the sun sign. Then we move on to the big three, which is the sun sign, the moon sign, and the rising sign. But you can use Desiree's book to look at your Venus signs, your Mars signs. I would probably stick to the personal planets, really. Would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah, because and not all the time, and I don't mean to generalize, but usually you and your partner, depending on the age difference, will have a lot of the same outer planets because they move slower. And so typically, but not always, you'll usually have the same Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. Saturn usually remains in the same sign for 3-ish years, sometimes 2.5 years, depending on the year. So yeah, really, I wouldn't say that those planets are not important in compatibility or synastry, because I think the way Pluto connects to charts can be very karmic. So, but when you're reading my book, so to say, it's probably going to feel more relatable when you just use personal planets, like you were saying.
Now my husband's 11 years younger than me, so you froze. Are you okay? Are you there? She'll be back in a second. She's back.
I'm still here. She's back. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay. Sorry about that.
We'll no, it's fine. We just roll with it. My husband's 11 years younger, but we are both Pluto and Virgo. Me early, him later. But we have every other planet in different signs. So yeah. Apart from Venus, we're both Venus in Scorpio, which is interesting.
That's very interesting. Yeah. That is probably very connected. I think I love conjunctions. We always talk about trines when you want to say like, oh, that's the good stuff. But I try to explain in my book that it's not, yes, trines are always lovely to have and they make things easy. But sometimes when things are too easy, they get a little sleepy, or they get lazy, I guess is maybe one thing to say. So I have found, even more so, I would like to say in my generation and even I think in Gen Z, is that we're really looking for more of a partner to challenge us and help us grow. And if you need that friction, you're looking for more opposition, conjunction, square, and those things are good to have in a chart, because in a synastry, because it helps you grow and learn from each other and push one another. So I try to put that in my book a lot, that, you know, just because you're with someone who is a square sun as you does not mean that you cannot have a wonderful relationship.
I totally agree. I completely agree. You know, I think I actually love squares, but I have a lot of squares and oppositions in my own chart. So I think.
Well, so you probably can relate to that energy. And I have a lot of conjunction in my chart, and I'm married to someone who is very conjunct my chart. So
Wow.
I feel like, you know, you're comfortable with, you know, different people are comfortable with different energy. So
yeah. So let's move on to actual publishing. So I've talked a little bit on podcasts before about my own experience. My own publisher, which is Callisto Press. I don't know what's going on with the. No, my AirPods are charged up. I don't know, is it your end or is it my end?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, there's a little bit of static. It's fine, we'll work with it then. My publisher, Callisto Press, found me from my, I write a lot online on Facebook and Instagram and on medium.com. And I got an email one day from this publisher saying, would you like to write a book? And I almost bit their head off, because I don't know, where I've had a lot of emails in the past saying, would you like to write a chapter in a book? And that means paying to write a chapter in a book. And I was like, so I'm a bit sharp because I've got Mars in Sagittarius. I emailed straight back saying, please tell me this isn't one of those scams where you want me to pay to write a chapter. And they were like, oh, no, we pay our authors. So anyway, so for my, I know it was funny. They didn't mind at all, but for the first book, I had to kind of audition and send in a sample of writing to their outline, and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, because all their books are written to algorithms that search words are being used for on Amazon, which is a very innovative approach for a publisher. And I had to like the outlines before I said yes to write them. My second two books, they just kind of said, would you like to write another one? I didn't have to audition, so, because they liked my writing. But your experience was more the traditional route. Okay.
I think
so Desiree wrote the book first, and did you send? I know it's being published by Llewellyn, which is a really top publisher. So congratulations on that. I know how hard it is to get manuscripts seen by a publisher, you know, or accepted. Did you send it to more than one publisher, or?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, I even want to back up a little bit before I sent to Llewellyn. I was kind of telling you, I did talk to a few other writers that were published in our field, and one of them that I spoke with had told me that the best way to go about getting your book published is to use a literary agent. And what a literary agent does is they take your manuscript, and they have relationships with lots of publishers. And it's kind of, that's their job, is to, you know, find authors and, you know, get them to different publishers. And why using a literary agent can work very well, especially if you're new, is because not all publishers accept manuscripts. Just, you know, so some are completely closed and will only work with literary agents, especially like the big guys. And then some of them will open up to, you know, accepting manuscripts, and then they'll close them for a while. Some leave them open all the time. So every publisher does things a little differently. So that's why I thought that, you know, using a literary agent would be my best way in, but nobody picked me up. So that was, you know, it just, the timing wasn't right. And then I had a friend, another fellow astrologer, who kept pushing me and saying, Desiree, come on, you got to get your book published. It's going to get published. I know it is. And so she actually sent me a list of, publishers that frequently publish books such as ours, astrology books. And so she said, why don't you start here? And then another way to get published is look for a publisher who doesn't have anything in their portfolio that such as astrology, because as a publisher, they want to diversify typically what types of books they have so that they get all sorts of different readers. Right. So if you see, so obviously, like, I would never probably want to send in a manuscript to your publisher because they already have you,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what's smart is to actually
and they actually don't accept manuscripts anyway.
So, and there you go.
At all.
And there you go.
So anyway,
so yeah. So for me, I would never, right. So, for me, what happened was I started out with sending in to Llewellyn, and obviously Llewellyn, all that they publish are astrology, more new age, self-help, a lot of books about Wicca, and they have their own books that they write. They have a wonderful calendar, transit book that they write themselves. They pay an author to write them. So I was like, and then I saw that they were also about 30 minutes down the street from me, their headquarters. And I was like, wow, that's pretty auspicious.
Oh.
Yeah, they're headquartered just down the road from me. And I was like, I think I'm going to try to definitely submit to them. And then I submitted to 2 other people. I picked a really nice day. I did it last year on the full moon in Libra because my book is about relationships, and the chart just seemed right. So I did submit, and again, when you're submitting to a publisher, check out their publishing page or their manuscript page, because they'll have an outline of what they're looking for. So usually they want it in a certain, font and a certain size. And so definitely read all of those things. They like a cover letter. They like to see your website if you have one. And I would, if you're really interested in getting published, just follow all of their guidelines and then submit. I would wait about a month, and if you don't hear anything back, just shoot an email and with a follow-up. But they get a lot of submissions, so it takes them a lot of time to kind of go through everything. Some people will not respond to you, and some people, will, and they'll give you the reason why they're not going to pick up your book. But the moral of the story is keep trying, because sometimes it takes some time, and sometimes it is a timing game, truly. So I did submit without a literary agent directly to Llewellyn, and then a month later I heard back, and then a month after that I signed a contract. So it went pretty fast.
But they wanted you to write the book you didn't submit, right?
Yes, that's true. So I submitted a totally different book. I didn't submit the whole thing. I think I submitted about 3 or 4 chapters and the introduction. And my publisher wrote me back, and she said, well, let me back up. When I submitted, I said, if this isn't what you're looking for, I also have a book about relationships and synastry. So she wrote me back, and she said, I want you to do the relationships and synastry one. And I'm like, that's going to be a lot more work, but okay, that's fine. So she liked my writing, and she read it, and she said, yeah, your writing is great. Let's do the relationships and synastry one. And we kind of briefly put an outline together. And then I submitted 3 chapters for the book about relationships, and then they sent me a contract. So sometimes, your publisher, if they like your writing, they'll be like, oh, that was nice, but can you do this instead?
So know that if you're going to work with a publisher, there's all kinds of ways it can go, and also the time. Know that you know, everything takes time. Not only having the patience and the keeping trying and knowing you might get rejected and all that kind of stuff, but the actual publication process takes so long.
So long. So I signed, right, I signed my, actually, funny enough, I have it right in front of me here. Let's see when this is dated for. So this is my contract that I got. And you can see here, the date is May 13th, 2021. And it is, you know, so that was a year ago, and my book will not be published until November. So from the time of the contract, you know, and even further, because really
a year and a half almost.
Yeah. So it really is like having a baby. I mean, I have a real baby, so it's not quite as extreme, but you know, you
I think it's like birthing a baby, but honestly.
It really is. Yeah. And I mean, you put so much work into it. I've read my book, you know, I mean, you know, there's the whole process, and it's long and it's tedious at times. But I feel like what I've tried to been telling myself is like, how many times am I going to do this in my life? I'm just going to enjoy every step of the process. So it's been, I've learned a lot. But it's been really nice. And then I've met wonderful people like you because of it. So it's been really cool.
Yeah. And Desiree's website is wonderful. It's simplysunsigns.com, and she has links to with the cover of the book. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. I will put a link for that in the show notes, because we're kind of early in the process really to even be talking about it, but I want you all to get excited about it and pre-order it, because pre-orders are so important for an author, and the marketing process is a whole interesting thing as well. I presume they help with the marketing, Llewellyn, too?
Yeah.
Or give you guidance. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I'm learning. So from what I understand though, yes, pre-orders are so important. And I didn't know how important they were, of course, until I have my own book. But they really do give bookshops and you know, they give my publisher an idea of how well the book will do, and that kind of sways them to spend more money on certain PR and marketing for my book itself. So because obviously if there's great pre-sales, that kind of you know, gives them a precursor to, oh, this book is going to be popular, maybe we should, you know, spend a little bit more marketing dollars to try to push this out. So so yes, it's very important. And then, you know, the PR portion I haven't really got into quite yet, but very soon I think I'm going to be working a little bit more. Some things that I've been doing, just like I've made some bookmarks, you know, and they have like a QR code on the back. And
so you did way more than me.
Well, I just thought they were so cute, and they weren't that expensive to make. And I'm going to Norwalk in Seattle at the end of May. And so instead of a business card, I was like, well, just make these little cute things to hand out. So
I'm going to get those made for going to the ESAR conference. I'm not taking my books. Right? I know you can get your books on tables at conferences if anybody else wants to market books. But the conferences take a cut of the sales, and they also, you have to carry the books to the conference or ship a whole box of books ahead of yourself. And I think that is such a genius idea. So well done.
Yeah. And this just takes them, you know, right to the site. You know, it's just like when you go to a restaurant, and everyone uses. I feel like people actually use QR codes more now because of the pandemic, because nobody had paper anywhere. So
and at one time you used to have an app for a QR code reader and everything. Now it's just your camera, you just point it at it, isn't it? Anyway, so that I'm going to take that hint. But when I was marketing my books, when I still am, but I got a whole spreadsheet of suggested posts for social media and when to post this, and then You know, I had to get early reviewers as well. And so first endorsements, yeah, I had to approach people to endorse the book. And then I had to approach a certain number of people who got a free book in return for leaving a review, so that on sale day, there was all these reviews populated already. So it's a whole business. And even if, you know, for any listeners, if you decide to go for the self-publishing route, you can learn a lot from our experience as well. For that, you know, that's why I thought we'd do this call together, A, to show off Desiree and her book, but B, to talk about different publishing routes and how much time it takes, and all you need to do. The marketing was a whole thing. I had to schedule out posts for the actual publishing date. You're not there yet, really. So I had like 4 weeks before the published date, and then 2 weeks after of scheduled posts. Now I just post about it regularly myself. But but they were publishers' requirements. So I don't know if Llewellyn does the same, because there's nothing better than the author doing the publishing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that you know, part of what publishers look for is to see if you do have you know, a website, social media, things that, because like you're saying, it's the best if the author does a lot of the marketing. And so if you don't have those things and you want to get published by a publisher rather than self-publish, I would get all those things for sure, those ducks in a row, and then submit and include your social channels and include your website and things like that. So,
but if you do decide to self-publish, because some people, if they don't get picked up, they just really want their book out there, you've still got to market it too, or they just sit there with like maybe 2 reviews on there.
Right. And I was thinking about self-publishing for a minute, but I am not a very good I desperately need an editor. I know you know I do. Yeah.
Well, I think we all do. I think everybody should. I think even the best books that have been self-published, people have paid an editor to edit them before they send it out there, because there's a lot of bad self-published books out there, in all genres, not just astrology.
Right.
But for example, one of my favorite astrologers, elders in kind of whatever, Stephen Forrest, author of so many books, Inner Sky, Night Sky, all those. I think I've got them all just about. He kind of formed his own little publishing company. But he has an editor. You know, everybody needs an editor. You always no, we'll be back. Am I back yet?
I think you're back. Yeah.
Oh, I think Neptune is making everything fuzzy at the moment, including me. Oh, so how else can people work with you though, Desiree? Do you do readings? I assume you're most interested in kind of relationship astrology. That's kind of my least favorite, to be honest. I do it.
Right now, my books are closed. They've been closed for a while. I'm not sure when I'm going to open them back up. You know, energetically with the book, I've just been a little short on time. And so I haven't really opened up my books for readings yet. But I do always find time to write. Because I usually write during my baby's nap. So my schedule is just really tight. So, and, you know, a lot of people like to do live readings. And so my schedule, unfortunately, just does not allow for it. So my books are closed now, but if I ever get some more time, you know, sign up for my emails. I always let people know when my books are back open. So, but yes, I love doing synastry readings. They're my specialty. Not so much composite. I don't offer a composite reading. I know how to read a composite chart, but I feel like I get more out of a reading looking at a synastry chart, in my personal opinion. I think composite, you can get a lot of info from it, but synastry is more so where
I prefer the two charts and looking how they looking how they interact with each other. Yeah, I've looked at I have looked at composite charts, but very rarely in a reading actually. I usually just look at them separate personally. Yeah. And I do less with I do more just the individuals readings, but of course some people ask me to look at their partners or ask me to do them together, and I have done them. But Desiree, your life will change over time, as I know, having had children and been married myself and things. The kids move on to school and more time opens up and different things, different focus. So if you're interested in Desiree's work, of course buy her book. follow her on social media. So do you write? I know we've met on Instagram. Do you write anywhere else astrology posts? Or?
So yes, on my website, I always post a monthly forecast. So I have, I do, which is funny because I swore I was never going to do that. And then I started to do it about a year ago, and now I love doing it. And because keeping up with transits is a ton of work, but I have just found a lot of love for it, and it just is very popular. People really want to know what is going on right now in the sky and trying, and I feel like a lot of people are really learning how to correlate that to their own chart. So it's so funny because astrology was not this mainstream, not even 5 years ago. So it's very much so recently been, and I'm so impressed with how much people know. And so people want a little bit more than just the surface level. So I think the transits is something that's really popular. So I do cover weekly transits, monthly transits, and I write about them on my website. I have over 500 articles right now on my website that I've been just writing over the past decade. So you can definitely go look around on there and maybe find some stuff that you find interesting. Actually, I wrote not too long ago, we were just kind of talking about this, was how you're not a cusp sign. So if you want to learn about that, I have a whole article about why you're not a cusp sign. So like things like that. I write
it's
about.
Kind of funny. I'm not going to name the book, but because it is a good book in other ways. But I was reading something to Desiree about her own birthday on the book, and it talked about the cusp for the day she was born, and I was like, no, you're either one or the other.
Yes, and I said yes, I know. And people will fight me about this all the time. But
me too.
Well, and that we could probably talk about this for an hour, but and again, we were talking about personal planets. The personal planets travel typically pretty close together. So I feel like that's why people, like for myself, for example, I was born on the cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarius, and I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart and a lot of Sagittarius in my chart. But at the end of the day, I was born when the sun was in Scorpio, so I am a Scorpio.
That's exactly why I think people think they're on the cusp, because they're usually going to have like Mercury or Venus, particularly either in the same sign, the sign before, or the sign after. And so always. That's almost always, and so that's why people think they're on the cusp, because they may have the sun at 0 or 29 degrees of a sign, and then their Mercury and Venus are in the other signs. So
like me, I have a late deacon sun, and my sun is in 2. Also depends what house I think your sun lies in. If your sun is in the 12th house, the 8th house, the 4th house, you may not relate to your sun because it's a little bit more hidden. And then if you have, your, like me, all of my Sagittarius, which is my rising sign in my 1st house, that's how I come off to people. That's how people view me, see me. I'm still a Scorpio.
So I have I've gone unstable. Hang on a second. Stop the internet. I have a cuspy daughter, only she's not cusp because I don't believe in cusps. She was born on June the 21st, and she is 0 Cancer. She is Cancer through and through. She is not Gemini. Oh.
Oh, I got you back. You're back.
Yeah.
You're just saying he's not Gemini.
Oh, my daughter, she's 0. Oh. Bear with us 1 second. She'll come back. Internet problems, can no control over them, but she will be back. Da, da, da. There you go. There you are.
There you are. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. We just have to be patient sometimes when this happens
that's okay.
on Zoom. Yeah, it's my daughter, my youngest daughter. She was born on June 21st, and she is 0 Cancer, and you know, the solstice was that day that she was born, but she is definitely Cancer. She is.
Oh yeah,
Cancer.
that's a really cool day to be born, is on the summer solstice. Yeah, longest day of the year. Lots of sunshine. Yeah.
Oh, it was lovely. I had her at home in a birthing pool.
That's amazing.
With the birds singing outside. 5:05 in the afternoon.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so nice. It's such a cool birthday to have. That's really good.
I know.
Really neat.
Typical astrologer though. I had my eye on the clock.
Okay, so my birth story was not as lovely as yours. But
my first one wasn't. Oh, I still had my eye on the clock.
Yeah, well, so I was my labor was 2 days long with my son, and it ended up in me having to have a surgical birth. But and so I hadn't had my phone for probably almost an entire day. And I remember getting rolled into the room, and everything was done, and I was finally back in the room, and I looked at my husband, and we hadn't slept in 48 hours. And I said, "Where's my phone? Where's my phone?" And I said, "Wait, what time was he born? What exact time?" And the nurse was like, "Oh, around 9:30 p.m. And I said, no. What was his exact time of birth? What was his exact time of birth? And my husband is looking at me, and he's just mortified because he knows what I'm doing. He's like, "You can't wait. You haven't slept in 2 days. You're on a bunch of drugs right now." And I'm like, "No." So my phone was dead. My phone was completely dead. I'm like, "Go find my charger. I need my charger," because I wanted to look at his birth chart. So I finally pulled up, and it's so funny. I is at 0 degrees Sagittarius, which is exactly conjunct my rising. So,
oh, cool.
So I think he wanted a Sagittarius moon, and that's why he waited the 2 days.
Yeah, I think babies
Scorpio
know.
Moon. Yeah,
I think so. I think souls know when they want to be born. My daughter was 10 days late, and she did not want to be a Gemini.
Yeah, my son was 14 days late, and he clearly wanted a Sagittarius moon. So
yeah, and well, my daughter's Aquarius moon with Uranus conjunct in the third house.
Oh, that's fun.
She's very interesting. She's lovely, but she's very unique.
I bet she is.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, and her sun sign is exactly square my nose. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how it works out.
Yep. So relationship charts, talking about relationships and synastry, you can do it with your children too. So, you know, one day when Desiree does start opening up her books again, you can do it with, you know, not just love interests. You can use Desiree's book for, you know, your relationship with your children, all significant people in your life. I think we all tend to go immediately to a love interest, you know, with those kind of compatibility books, but compatibility matters in all areas of life. So I'm really excited for the book, and I will be talking about it a lot when it's actually published. In fact, they should send me a copy, I think.
Of course you're going to get a copy. You're on the cover. You get as many copies as you would like.
And I will probably I will probably do a giveaway when it's ready as well.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we can do one together. I mean, that would be wonderful.
I think we should. Yeah,
We
because
should.
I don't know that many people who've most of my astrologer friends have written the kind of the more advanced books, I would say now. We've moved on to reading the Chris Brennan's Hellenistic astrology books and things. Whereas our books are, for beginners and intermediate and anybody that just wants more information. So
yeah.
So is there anything else? Yeah.
No, I mean, I just wanted to say too how much I loved your book. I was kind of saying, before we started recording, that I am not a tarot reader. Obviously, I know enough about tarot to be dangerous, but I don't practice. But I think astrology and tarot are always very closely connected. And I have a lot of astrology friends that are tarot readers. But what I loved about your book is I obviously know a lot about astrology. So the fact that the book connected the two made it so easy for me to understand tarot in a much different way. So I think that your book, like I was saying, is fantastic for both tarot readers who want to know more about astrology and then astrologers who want to know more about tarot. I loved the pictures. I loved the fact that you assign, not only a planet, but also an element, because I love using elements in readings.
Oh, me too.
It gives you a tangible way to understand something, because you know what an element feels like, smells like, looks like. And I feel like it just makes it really understandable. So for me, and then I loved that you used colors to also make it really tangible as well. And then I even found myself connecting to some of the cards, like in my own birth chart. So I don't know, I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a raging success like your first book is. But yeah, it's beautiful, and it's beautiful. The color, like, it's printed so beautifully, and all the pictures, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, great publishers, but all the writing. they did all the art. They did all the artwork.
I mean, the whole thing is just really, really well put together and very easy to read. And I even find myself, when I see something online about tarot or whatever, I see myself, using I'm like, oh, let me go look that card up. And it's very easy for me to understand because of the astrology that's in it. I love it. It's great.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Now tell everybody where they can find you. I did the website, simplysunsigns.com, and I will put a link to that in the show notes. But where else? Instagram?
Instagram, yep. So my handle is @simplysunsigns, so easy enough. I'm mostly active on Instagram, and then I also sign up for my emails, and you can find that right on my website. I promise I do not send a lot. I only send one every Sunday, just kind of with like a recap of the week. And then if anything is important, like when I had my book for pre-sale, I sent an email about that. So just the important stuff, but I promise you I don't bombard you. So if you are interested in signing up for my emails, that's a great place to start. And then following me on Instagram. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, awesome. And if any of Desiree's friends are watching, I'm Cosmic Owl Astrology on Instagram and Facebook. I use Facebook a lot too. So come follow me as well, because I think we're probably going to, be friends for a long time. New astrology friends. Too. Yeah. Well, it's been a real pleasure having tea with you, Desiree.
Oh yeah, I forgot about my tea. We've been talking so much; it's probably cold now.
And everybody, go or pre-order that book. Is it available now for pre-order?
It is available now for pre-order. Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, all the places. All
major sites. So, and then when you get the book and when it's been published, please leave her a review. I've learned how important reviews are to algorithms. Please always consider leaving book reviews now for authors, because I didn't realize how important they were until I was an author. So All right, Desiree, thank you.
Thank you, Louise.